more towards money movement, transactions, transfer of money. We have Blow, which is entertainment. We have Rewarded, which is advertisement technology. Payland, which is also financial. Then there is the rest there. We have our capacity building. So there's other animation for anyone who may be interested in animation, which is highly likely because you guys are techies, but you can be diverse. And then we have AI Center of Excellence. We have Africa Blockchain Center. Right. So I'd like to invite Jeff, just so that we stop the monotony of my voice, to tell us about ABC and what they do there briefly. Jeff, you have about 3 minutes.
Hello again. So for the Africa Blockchain Center, we mostly have a vision of demystifying blockchain technology in Africa and the Pan-African community. So when I mean demystify, I mean that we break down blockchain technology by using research and development. We actually break down the core protocols to various components, where we actually understand how each component we can use within the blockchain network. So this basically means that it's driven by innovation, whereby, for example, you can break a protocol into a sidechain, and you can use that sidechain in regards to creating an identity management solution, which then can be pegged on top of a neural network. So if you build an application with such a philosophy, then you're driving smart technology. So just a brief, because I have 3 minutes. For the Africa Blockchain Center, it's divided in 5 main components. The first one, which is the most important and it's the core of the company, is research and development. We believe a lot in research and development. We learn every day, we build every day, and we'll continue building. For in-house development, as mentioned by Natasha, we support the startups within the lab with various blockchain functions. So this basically means you can create a security layer on top of ERC20 or Solana, NEOS, NIA protocol, so on and so forth. You can support a startup by, for example, just delegating a specific ledger for restoring transactions, as, for example, Payland. When you try to emit various transactions to multiple parties, can have an in-house solution around just R&D, where we just want to research on how we can manipulate the blockchain, for example, the blockchain blocks to reduce the gas fees. This means that you create a carbon-friendly solution and reduction of gas fees. So it means if you're making transactions on the network, the fees are much more affordable, so you tend to use the solution much more. The other core, which is important, is mentorship and training. We believe a lot in mentorship and training. We believe that we have smart Africans, and we believe that we can create local solutions within the local market, instead of multiple companies importing various skills into local countries. So we teach the Cardano protocol, which is key regards to functional programming using Haskell and Rust. We teach the Algorand protocol. We teach Ethereum, which is the baseline for most of our developers, whether it's in-house, whether we're training you. At least if you want to learn anything, just learn Ethereum, because that's like the baseline. It's like DevOps for most engineers. We teach something called NIA protocol. NIA protocol is slightly different because you're using parachains instead of private or public blockchains. And we see how best we can place various components within the solution. It can be a decentralized application. It can be a standalone application. It can be a composite application. So it depends. The other one, which is also important, is blockchain for business. Because remember, we have various stakeholders who run businesses already existing. And they also need to get some sense of understanding the technology as it is. And we try as much as possible to make it in a way that they can understand in a business-oriented manner, and how they can make solemn decisions on how they can embrace the technologies in regard to the business processes, and how they can re-engineer also the business processes so that they can fit the technology in regards to the vision and the mission of the organization. Yeah, I think that's all for the ABC. Thank you.
Yeah, when just start speaking, we just start taking down notes to ask questions. Okay, so AI Center of Excellence. I'd like to start off with just a few facts. So how many know that today's data, about 90% of the data that we generate today has been generated in the past few years? Anyone? Okay. What's the basis or the core of any artificial intelligence? Right, data. And we are at a point in time where we are producing more data than we have ever produced before. And the interesting thing, I'm sure we all get money and numbers. The interesting thing about the AI global market is it is expected to hit about 190 billion in 2025, with a growth rate of about 33.5% per year. So it's a market that is ready, it's a market that is growing, and because of the amount of data that we're generating, we're able to leverage onto that market. And that's what we do at the AI Center of Excellence. One, we provide AI training, and our AI training is in two ways. We train AI engineers. Our main goal is to take data scientists and transform them into AI engineers because they have the core skills. And the second thing within our training is corporate training, where we train different individuals within companies. Second is AI as a service. So we provide AI services to clients. And then third is obviously, as Jeff said, research and development. So today there is very little AI research that comes from the continent. And we would like to be able to leverage, to build onto that research and to build solutions that are specific to our needs here in Africa. That's a brief overview of what we do at AICE. Now we can move on to the fun part where we dive into technology. I will invite Bendon.
Before Raymond takes over, I just want to find out how many here are like entrepreneurs, how many are techies, how many, by show of hands, who is an entrepreneur? Others, you're not sure. Let's just say I'm an entrepreneur, How many are entrepreneurs? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. How many data scientists? 1, 2, 3. All right. How many of you are AI engineers? 2. Okay. Anyone who is a blockchain developer here? Okay. It helps. Okay. And then who has launched a product in the market? One person. It doesn't have to be a tech product. It could be even, Great. So, so we understand that, of course, everyone, would like to be called an entrepreneur in one way or another, but we lack the skills at times to, take these ideas we have in our brains to the market. Yes. And that's why at times we ask, why technology? Why do you need technology? Right? And I believe, technology plays a very important part when you pushing your startup or you're pushing your idea forward. So, and that gives us the opportunity now for us to listen more about the Adanian Lab Tech Unit from Raymond.
Okay. Thank you, Ben. Good morning, everyone, once again. It's an important question here, why technology? Why technology is because you need it to help you, or you need it to scale your business. You need it to reach maybe other people, right? So before we, okay, I think I will stand. Okay, thank you. So if we say why technology, my business, I'm for instance, I have a shop in town. I want my more business to my shop. Do I need technology? I might not. Second is I'm a farmer somewhere, or we are a group of farmers. Do we need do we need technology to enable us as farmers to access the market? Okay, we'll look at it. Then in technology, we have what we call system design and architecture. What that means is, for instance, you want to build a house, or I need something to help me do this. What will I do? First, look for an architect. This is what I need, this is a space. Then they can advise if it can fit or not, right? So here, Adanians, we're building smart technology, meaning we're moving away from Web 0.2 to Web 0.3. What that means is it reaches a point where we are ready for what you call IoT, as well as we are ready for open APIs, and then we are ready for blockchain, we're ready for AI services. So on this architecture here, you'll see that we have the normal Web 0.2, the services there. Then we have some difference in the data layer. We have the blockchain network, we have the AI services here. So on that architecture itself, we'll discuss about it, but what you can learn one or two is that we're trying as much as possible to ensure that our system is ready for the next gen, or for Web 0.30. And that's why we'll discuss about this later when we have Jeff discussing around what you have in the blockchain network and AI services in there. But the other one is around security issues, the microservices, and the channels to access the platform. Okay, so now when we go to system development technologies, why Adanian Labs? And why do we scale our business? Or why do we have a startup running in the next 6 months? 6 months, you're in a testing phase and ready to take off in the market. Why? Because of I think three or five issues which we perfect is around system design and flowcharts, then the development approach, choosing the right development stack, the collaboration tool to use, our DevOps and automation process, then our system deployment, it's automated as well, then automated system testing and support. So we'll discuss each and every point one by one for around 10 minutes maximum.
So, Raymond, you are an engineer, and of course, I don't know, are you guys understanding this? Because, he tried to use a farmer or a group of farmers to just, create. You're not a farmer, Raymond, but I know you. So, are you getting this? Yeah. Great. I believe that myself, and of course, hopefully you guys, that a well-designed technology product, of course, can stand the test of time, can scale quickly, right? It's easy to be migrated. And of course, you can build faster, yes? So in Adanian Labs, we really emphasize on ensuring that the architecture is well designed, well crafted, is well laid out, yes, before even anything else comes. If, for instance, if you have an idea and you want us to incubate it at Adanian Labs, what happens? So we start first things first, an architecture design, and a scope document, an ideation kind of process kicks in, where we ensure that you've captured all the tech tools you want to use, you understand what you want to use, you understand the timeline, You understand the charter at which you want to push your project in, right? So where also we come in the most is that how fast do you want to go to the market? How fast or how soon do you want your product to go into the market? So that we understand the tech needs like what kind of team you need to put in place so that this product can go to the market fast. Yes. So Raymond, while you going to be discussing this, let's ensure that it's an interactive session where these guys can give their own inputs as well. Yeah. We'll be asking questions. Also, we'll give you a session where you say what's the best tech stack, or what's the best framework, or what's the best something around your tech journey as techies or data scientists or software developers or engineers. Yes, great.
Okay. Thank you, Ben. I think the questions we have there, we'll go the whiteboard there. Then we start with the first system design and flowcharts. Why do you need good system design and flowcharts? As Bendon has said, to stand the test of time and all that. So if we say, for instance, now we're building a system, right? I'd like someone to give me a system we can start modeling from now here. Then we see how we can scale it and fast track it for the through that process. Just a normal system. Yes? Stock management. Okay, all right. So sorry. Oh. So we're building here a stock management system. Forgive me about my handwritings, okay? All right. So stock management system. What do you need for the user requirements? User requirements, that's the specific modules we have in stock management. One, of course, it will have users, right? It will have the accountant, it will have the cashier, it will have procurement people, right? So we have the users, and these users have roles, and these roles has permissions, right? Okay, it's interactive session. Right? You're on the track, right? You're on track, okay. What do we need next? We manage our products or what we're purchasing. So the stock, we have the products, then it has its own objects and attributes. Then the access, there is a accounting module with the ledgers and all that. We can break them down till where we want. So we are here. What do you need most in that system? It's just to see the in-stock, out-stock, reconcile. Yeah, there's a reporting module in here. So in this system, do we need to bring in the blockchain? No, right? Because it's basically using alone. But if we want to scale it, if for instance, you want to give it out as software as a service, yeah, which instead of using in your own shop or in your own business, someone else with the same business can be using it. So we're making it large scale. And you'll have, maybe you're billing this person per month to use your platform, right? So that's where we need software as a service and scale up our system, stock management system. So Now, it starts with the architecture. Which architecture will we use here? There are three types. There's the one for the monolithic. There's the one for microservices. Each is useful on its own, but it depends what system you're building. So before you choose monolithic architecture, or for instance, or you choose microservices, it depends with what you want to do with your system. So if I can play the last slide, you'll see that there, this is a huge system we developed for some farmers somewhere. They're using IoTs and all that. You'll see that for them, we needed microservices. So because monolithic architecture means if one system breaks, then the whole system, if something breaks, the whole system is down. But microservices, you can have accounting not working, but you'll have stock in, stock out to be working, point of sale will be working, but you won't get the reports. So that's why we need the microservices architecture for this. And this is something we normally discuss with developers like you, myself, and them. We see that this architecture will follow. Okay. Then we go. How is our data flow? If we're linking microservices, data flows from one point to point P to point C, and that's why we normally come up with a good data flow diagram, which each service, how it links to the next service. In case of a breakage, where do we have error reporting, where do we have alert and notifications? How does the system tell that we have a problem and the engineers can work on it without affecting the normal business? Okay. Now, we're done with the flow. Sorry.
Let's make your life easier. Oh, okay.
So while they're wiring him up, so before even we reach here, do you guys sit down and try to ask yourself, is this one going to be, is it a startup? Is it, you are using it on your own, like you want to, do your own learning? Before you get there, there are a lot of questions you have to ask yourself, right? Let's say it's an idea. You want to start offering like a software as a service for stock management and maybe accounting and things like that. What comes to your mind? So why did you say stock management? Okay. And at this point, how do you determine what to do next after you've said stock management?
So in the offices, we sit down with the team and we start discussing exactly what is the next step we need, what are the features we need, how to take this forward, stuff like that, to see who would be the right people, or if we even need it in-house, and what are the key requirements for this, and then we start taking the steps forward from there.
Great. Another question would be, so that means you already have your team in place. And of course, in a startup ecosystem, you could be a founder who is a techie, but at the same time, you could be a founder who is an non-techie. So at this point, let's say you are an non-techie, we assume you are what do you call, you sell, you sell clothes. You are non-techie. So what would be your ideal situation at this point?
In terms of the stock management?
Yes.
So if I'm thinking in terms of clothes, as a business owner, I'm thinking on how do I keep track of every single cloth that's going in and out of my shop, and how am I taking care of my finances through a system? That's what I'm going to ask my techie. These are the two things I want sorted. How do I do that?
Okay.
Data flow. Oh, you did. I assume all of them fit there. I don't know what. Yes. Okay. So we are back to where we started. Okay. All right. So it's in the development stack. With that, you will choose a stack which works best for everyone is comfortable with. That includes choice of your database. Which database do you prefer? Depends on the data flow, because you could be having a relational database or non-relational database. It depends on the data structure you're expecting from the users. It could be structured or non-structured. So for the structured, you can easily use relational. Non-structured, you can easily use non-relational database. And that's subject to debate, because we find that we have several databases coming up. And with the blockchain in it, blockchain as well is another database. You can easily say that. So choice of this depends on the data flow as well for your system. Then now we go to collaboration tools. Here in Dar es Salaam, Raymond is there in Nairobi, Brandon is there in Kigali, yeah, and you're all working on the same system. How do we make it say that what I'm doing is known to what is known to Brandon or to Isa there? So we have collaboration tools to use in the lab. There's a collaboration tool for communication. There's a collaboration tool for the version control and all that. So you could be using GitHub. There is what Bitbucket. There is another GitLab, yeah, and others. So then DevOps and automation process in our lab. Do we choose and use normal Azure DevOps, or we came up with our own? So what we did is following, as a developer, following a system, is a bit hard for some people. So what you do, implement your own system so you can follow it religiously because you want other people to follow your system. So that's why we have DevOps and automation process in the lab. So what we did, we customized DevOps to fit what we do. And I think it's a whole discussion other because I'll take you through what we did to have that automated process for each dev. And that's what you have for the CI/CD, all that. Then system deployment. What have we done for system deployment? It's still automated as well. So you'll find that you're working with, what's your name? Sorry? Asante.
Asante.
Thank you. Asante, working with Asante, and Asante has done some work, pushed to our version control. What happens is automatically tested, and if it's successful, it's in the pipeline for deployment. If it's not, then everyone in the team will get a message that Asante is pushing something which is not good. And Asante will be embarrassed of himself and will be like, okay, I won't do it again. So, okay. So to use the example, but thank you. Same for system deployment. System testing, we've done unit tests, as well as automated testings for the different platforms we have, and to internal. Support is normal. Something breaks, you say that, oh, we'll work on it, and you fix it right away. I think basically I've covered all the same development technologies, right?
Yeah, pretty much. But again, I would like, we want to engage the audience at this point. Now, let's get off the class a bit and let's become businessmen and businesswomen. Okay. Why do we have ideas, and why do we have startups, and why do we have, products? Even if they are not, technology based, yeah? So that, you want to make money or impact communities or, prove a point, yeah? I'm sure you would prove a point yourself, like, oh, wow, this is at least I can use the contact lenses to, understand your thinking, right? That's proving a point, for instance. I don't think you solving a problem. Yes? So what comes into your mind before even you get here? I'm sure the money, or rather the outcome is what first comes into your mind. How will be the product rolled out in the market? What will be the cost? Yes. What do I expect? What are the, what do you call, what am I solving in the market? What's my, who are the competitors? Whom am I going to fight with in the market? So who is in that space again, right? So there is a lot of other things before even you get here, from what Raymond is explaining, this is more or less like, when you have lots of money, and say, okay, fine, I'm gonna hire 1,000 developers. But now what if you want to quickly, within a week, you're piloting or you're pivoting or you testing or you beta testing? What happens? How do you go about it? So as Adanian Labs, we can easily sit you down and say, okay, fine, we've seen where you're heading to or where you want to go to. We would give you this direction where in the next 3 months you have something, just because you want to prove the concept or you want to test the market. Because again, if you go some direction in technology, you might find yourself spending 2 years trying to build, right? And we try as much as possible to use the easiest technology as possible and the one which is available. Purposes is because one, talent. You might decide to use blockchain and then, for a whole 6 months, you're trying to hire a blockchain developer. And then of course you get one who is based in Indonesia and he wants, $50,000 a month. Will you manage? Yes. All right. So let's think around, first of all, how fast are we shipping this to the market? I think everyone would want something to get into the market very fast. First of all, you call your family, oh, I have it, download, right? Or you tell your girlfriend, I told you, I will do it. Yes. So once we've understood your needs as the entrepreneur here, as the person with the idea, then we sit you down and say, now this is the best technology direction you will take. Why? Within 6 months, you'll have completed the build. There is enough talent to support your technology. And of course, scaling it will be easier, or rather, if we want to move to a more complex environment, either we'll bootstrap it and then, easily move to then, the technology now you are envisioning, but you would have tested the product. Yes? No, it's an interactive session.
Yes.
So when you were speaking, you specifically said that if you wanted to scale this, you're going to scale it as a SaaS, you're going to put it on the blockchain, yeah? So what is it specifically about blockchain with regards to scale? Because there are a lot of other ways you can scale a SaaS without the blockchain.
Okay. Thank you. I will go back. I think it was somewhere here. Okay, so we said you're scaling a platform. I agree. There's other ways you can scale the platform without necessarily using blockchain. But here we want to use, we're moving to a 0.3 instead of using normal systems where you input your data, then retrieve, same dynamic. The scale here means can accommodate several other people, right? Now, if we're using a scale and you want the system, it's being used in TZ, then in Kenya, everywhere, right? And then we want to ensure that this data is not compromised such that if I go back to my SaaS platform 10 years later, I find the sales I had in this day was changed by anyone in a different country where the system was hacked. So if we want to ensure that this data is immutable, that's when we have the blockchain. Okay.
I can add on that. Scale has different dimensions. Yes. They scale for speed, they scale for data because you want to collect as much as possible. They scale in the sense that you moving to new markets, not necessarily you're scaling your system, right? And of course, they scale where you becoming, you're moving to new technologies. And you could be, you built a system, a legacy system, and you want to, scale it up to now latest technology. Make sense? So at the point of your question where you're asking about blockchain, it's not really, scale, but you're introducing a new dimension of, being compliant, or rather you're using a new technology, which maybe it could be advantageous in your business in terms of security, in terms of, future opportunities like tokenization, all right? Future opportunities like, non-fungible, tokens and things like that, right? So don't take scale literally, yeah? And I would like to understand, what did you understand when when you mentioned scale?
So when he said SaaS and a stock management system, I sort of imagined maybe if he sells this to Mr. Price, and Mr. Price is in 17 countries on the continent, so maybe then that's about 2,000 stores, or maybe 3,000 stores, and I mean, yeah, maybe 10 to the power of 6 stock inventory every day, something like that. So then I wanted to see why, personally, as an engineer, I didn't see why I would need blockchain. But then if the point now is immutable data sets, I understand why he would want to do this on the blockchain.
But of course, from your, example, that's Mr. Price, yes? Before Jefferson maybe answers it the way it should, I believe, first of all, it's a distributed business, right? And there should be some sort of traceability, yeah? Because there is imports, maybe there are exports, there, there's what you call return policies. Maybe you bought a nice dress and getting home, it's torn somewhat, or it's not fitting you. So there's a whole lot of processes within Mr. Price, which I believe even blockchain would be a big thing, yeah, from the word go when you developing a system for them or developing that platform for them. One, you understand fraud, in retail space, and how do you want to figure out that? I mean, blockchain would give you some sense of, security, some sense of immutability, right? Yes, so Jefferson.
So let's say we've already built the system. It's running, and I said we have around Mr. Price in like 30 countries, and that's like, say, 30,000 stores. So the secret to any system, whether it's Uber, whether it's the Oracle database, well, even Kali Linux, it all goes down to the architecture. For example, if we look at Linux distros, so this means Linux distributions, whether Mint, Kali, Arch Linux, so on and so forth. If you really go down to the core code base, it all goes down to the architecture of Kali Linux. So do you need blockchain? No, you don't need blockchain. You can build your whole system as a distributed architecture and deploy it. It's okay. But then again, what does that mean? It means that users, while they're using a system, they're emitting a lot of data in either store, whether it's Indonesia, whether it's Stockholm, Scotland, they're emitting a lot of data. Now, if they're emitting a lot of data, and based on your architecture, it's a read and write operation, so it means they're using the user interface, deploying data via the API and storing it in the database. It's okay. If, let's say, one service fails, if it's a microservice architecture, as Raymond explained, there's a self-healing mechanism that another service takes in place before your users actually understand that your system is down. If it's monolithic, then you have a problem because everything will fail. Now, why are we introducing Web 3.0? Oh, consensus mechanism. Oh, the blockchain. We're introducing it because based on the business requirements and based on the architecture, when you have all this data being emitted in 30 different countries, and you'd want a smart way of storing and manipulating the data in the database. The blockchain itself, it has a database. It can be Cosmos, it can be RocksDB, but it's a smart way in which if any other person in any country would want to manipulate the data wrongly, there is a group of people in all those countries trusted enough to know that if any data is being manipulated wrongly, they get a notification and they can cancel out the write and read operation. Now, why is blockchain important in terms of scalability? It's important because it uses something called a decentralization mechanism. Decentralization means it's like a neural network with multiple nodes, but each node has a mind of its own. Same data, same clone data, same mirror data, but it has a mind of its own. So this basically means that if your load balances based on the amount of data is being emitted are struggling, it's a lot of data that it's actually manipulating one node. Other nodes are smart enough to know that this node is suffering with all that data. So it means now it executes like 6-10 different nodes based on the math calculation that you've placed out in terms of the amount of data being generated by the number of users. So it means that there's a lot of math going on in the background, but each node is smart enough to be able to handle that data. So what does this mean? It means that there's security around your data, first of all, whether it's cryptography, asymmetric, symmetric, so on and so forth. It means that you can be able to scale without having to monitor every single time using your mobile phone or your laptop, but the nodes are smart enough. You'll just get a report, whether it's the end of the day, whether it's time cycle, clock cycle, depends how you set it up, but you get a report every single, let's say 3-4 hours, 10 hours, about the operation of your application. The mutability bit, which guys are saying, basically means that if you perform a read and write operation on the blockchain network, no one can manipulate it. So it means if he made an error by, let's say, executing a smart contract, it will remain there for everyone to see. If he corrects it, everyone will still see. So it means, sorry? Oh, of course. So it means there's transparency throughout your clients if it's a public blockchain. Now that there's also the blockchain architecture. So this is the system architecture. So there's now, when that small component over there, which was blockchain based, there's now its own architecture. And if it's a public blockchain, if it's a private, if it's a permissioned, each of them has its own attributes. But it means that if it's public, your clients get to know everything that happened through the stock management system. If it's private, then the stakeholders of the business know what happened to the system, whether if he performed a wrong operation, whether if somebody in Indonesia performed a wrong operation, everything is in one ledger. So you can actually see and attest that something actually happened. And the last thing which is important is the decentralization bit. It's important because it's like you have 1 million databases all over the world. Each of them are neural linked. So if one is struggling with a lot of data, it can execute a math trigger to 5-10 different nodes deployed in various countries to come and support this one node. You don't have to be there. You don't have to be worried. You're not worried whether somebody manipulates your data. You're not worried whether something will fail, because it's smart enough to know that if one is struggling, multiple can be executed to come and help out this one node. So this means there's business continuity for your business. It means there's security for your business. And it means there's transparency between the clients and the stakeholders for your business.
So my question was, you said that once you make a mistake on a blockchain, everybody can see it. Doesn't that leave all your data open to everybody and anybody to have access to?
So it depends again with the architecture. As I said in the beginning, the architecture is the secret to any system. Whether it's a mobile app, web, USSD, hybrid, depends. Now, if it's a public blockchain, because remember, there's now the blockchain architecture, there's the system architecture. If it's a public blockchain, it means that it's open to everyone, but everyone is anonymous. So no one knows anyone, but since you're accessing the same service, we get to know everything that happens on the block explorer. If it's a private, for example, for the stock management system, I'd use, if I was building it, I'd use a private blockchain. This basically means that it's only retained within a specific niche of people. Now, the trusted consensus. So the consensus, for example, you have your board of members. Now, if you're making around $2 million, $3 million every single day, your board members will get to see the transparency of every transaction. So if somebody messes up, whether they want to steal $1 million, it's fine, it will execute, and they'll remove $1 million. But remember, those people who have now as he said earlier on, there is the role and permissions. So the one with the super admin role will actually see you tried removing $1 million, but you won't see it. But it means it's executed in the system, but it doesn't make the final transaction to the bank account. It's waiting for approval from the super administrator. So if the super admin is, let's say, your boss, or 10 different board members, or 20 different board members, they have all of them to say accept, 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 accept to the 20th person to execute that transaction to your bank account.
So if one person says no, then the transaction gets canceled out.
Exactly.
I had another question. Suppose you had a public blockchain, right? That would be open for everyone since everybody's anonymous, but you want to give them access to certain parts of a blockchain within that blockchain. Is that something like that possible?
Yes, because it depends again, the logic on the blockchain, how you've built your logic. So for example, you can combine something we call, it's normally called a hybrid blockchain architecture. So this means that I'm combining a public blockchain and a sidechain, for example, or I'm combining a permission blockchain and a private blockchain, and it's more or less a hybrid architecture. So then again, it depends how you've actually architectured your blockchain bit to make sure that you have less gas fees, because it's important also to appreciate the fact that network interoperability has very high gas fees. That's why Bitcoin was raising their prices a few weeks ago from the CEO statement of Bitcoin. And this actually will affect how people make transactions. Or for example, when Elon Musk pulled out, there was a drop in the market. It still is because of the gas fees. So if, based on your architecture, you reduce the gas fees, and you're able again to initiate a hybrid model around the permission blockchain and private, you can be able to manipulate them. It just depends how you code your smart contracts, and also how you code your network, and also how you code the cryptography.
I have a question, Jefferson and Raymond. So we've said all this, but we've not touched on the artificial intelligence, or rather the data side. So how then does this play out? Natasha, take for example the Mr. Price setup. So where do AI come in?
Okay, you mean within the system architecture or within the business operations?
Even the operations, the architecture, yeah. Uh-huh. So we're selling. Okay.
So within architecture, I think I prefer if Raymond answered, but within business operations, obviously that's more towards improving efficiency, automating, and making it a bit more autonomous and adaptive towards the scaling of that business. So for example, we're talking about scale, right?
Yes.
And you have your stock management tool system, and we want to be able to use it within all the 17 countries. The alternative would be hiring a lot of people to ensure that the system is working perfectly in all those different countries. Where AI would come in is we would reduce the amount of people we need so that we focus on them doing the more non-mundane tasks. It would handle all mundane tasks. So for example, you mentioned fraud, or you mentioned return policies, things like that, customer management, all those things. That's where AI would come in. So it would allow the business to function with all the repetitive tasks in a more autonomous way, and then handle everything else that's non as technical. I don't know if I've answered your question.
You have at the business level, but it's okay. But I will again throw another question to you guys. Do you really need technology at all times? Is it a must? Like, let's say, you are corrosion in cashew nuts. Yes, you producing cashew nuts. Is it a must you have a technology solution? Yes. Why?
In the process of preparing cashew nuts. Yes.
So tell us, maybe you can tell us the process and where technology comes in.
And removing the shells and toasting them. We use like.
So that's a miller.
Yes. A miller.
Okay.
Yes.
Or a sheller or something like that.
Yes.
I see. Okay. Now that's a hard technology. We're talking about the soft technology.
There's also software involved.
Oh, okay.
In running the machines.
See?
As well.
I see.
A bit of it is automated. Yes.
I like that.
But Bendon, I'd actually throw the question back to you. If you have a corrosion business, I would ask you where you see your business heading. Because if you're supplying to just say your family, or it's just in-house, you wouldn't necessarily need technology. But if you want to make your business larger or scalable or reach more people, then yes, for sure you would need technology.
Okay. I believe, first of all, again, before even I make a decision around if I need technology, I have to understand the size of my business. Maybe I'm using my hand to remove the husks. Yes. Maybe I'm producing 10 kgs per day, and maybe the consumption of my packaged korosho is within my hometown. And in my hometown, people even barely have smartphones. Yes. And by the time, maybe at the end of the day, I've sold my 10 kgs. So what will technology help me there for? Like, so it's not a must. We have technology at all times. All right, I see. Okay, but technology is good. Technology is here with us. And how we use it, how we fit in our processes is very important. And I like the fact that you say that, the machine which, mills the korosho is smart. That also brings in, maybe you are using IoT, right? And there are a lot of data points in that korosho business of yours, yes? So question is, why would you need IoT in a korosho business? IoT devices, for instance.
I could think of a scenario maybe in perhaps if you're also involved in the transportation process of the korosho, maybe certain pallets to show that they've reached the location have NFC tags on the pallets to show
RFC
that they're
or
yes,
NFC. I don't know.
Yes, and they've arrived at the location as well. IoT, maybe also weighing them. The scales could have like IoT capabilities and show that this amount, these kilos reached at the location. Yeah.
Interesting. Clap for him. So you have a startup? Okay. You just know these things. Okay. You are a smart guy. I like that. Okay, so that's a very good example of how you could use IoT really in such a business, yeah, Korosho. I like that. Okay. Anyone else who where technology is they are not there, so that we say, okay, fine, there is such a technology we can use there. What do you think, sir? Like,
Hello? Yes. What I think is that there is a point that we do not really need technology all the time. The the need of technology depends on the size of the business and the people you want to reach, and maybe the nature of your business. Because we are a developing country, and there are not a lot of people in our country who are very exposed to these new technologies, or they are ready to use them. So when you want to bring technology to your business, or you want to scale up, I think it is very important to consider who are your customers, where are you based, where do you want to go. But technology is crucial, and it's something to consider if you really want to grow fast, most especially. And if you want to reach a lot of people, and if you want to get a lot of profit, that's important. But if you're going slow, or if you do not have such big dreams, and you just want to stay like locally there, then maybe you do not really need it. But if you have dreams and you have bigger plans, technology can help you get there very fast. So it's something to consider.
I like that. Great. Okay. So before we move forward, I would also say this. There is business and there is technology. Yes. You can start operations before even building anything, depending on that business you're talking about. You could do your market research. You could do prototyping without having built the technology. Yeah. So let's not get glued so much that I have to build this before I start anything. So I believe technology, yes, as you've mentioned, can help you scale, can help you make more money. But if you have an idea, even if it's a tech-based idea, there are the smaller things you can start achieving or doing right now before you start building, right? And then now you come and say, why do I need technology after understanding, this solution I want to build? And what kind of technology do I need? And that brings us to the next thing around so before we get to that.
Yeah. Jeff, you mentioned Web 3.0, and Issa also mentioned it. So I feel like we need to touch on it a bit. So I'd like you to explain first what it is, and then how is it different from 2.0?
I like stories. I know, right? So let's walk down memory lane. Before the dot-com explosion, how was the internet like when AOL was the thing? Anyone knows AOL? No, not. You know AOL? Oh my God. So I mean, AOL, back in the day, if you interacted with the web back then, way back, when we were trying to figure out, how to reduce errors in compiler construction. Before right now it became different. It was more or less you could only execute a read operation with Web 1.0. So read meant you could only extract data, but writing was still something which was being done research on. So writing means now, how do you put now data into the database? So that's the time they were doing a lot of research on databases, schemas, how to create ORMs, object models, so on and so forth. But that was the era then. We were figuring out computers, we were figuring out how to remove cathode ray tubes and move to thin film transistors, of thinking around how to reduce data logs around capacitors. So it was an interesting time because now imagine being all of us being during that time, we wouldn't have any of this. So still figuring out things, Then there's a researcher from Colombia who came up with the first transistor, which led to a guy also in Russia finalizing on the database schemas. And then now we moved to Web 2.0. So Web 2.0 basically means that now that's where we are at, because now we have APIs. So APIs was a boom thing, because now we were able now to write databases, able to come up with logic, we're able to draw stuff and picture the world how it would have been if we had a solution, and now write that logic in the application programming interfaces. And it was a beautiful thing because now we created a way where two different applications could talk. Because basically that's what an API is. You just come up with something where you have one application. This is like the stock management system. You have another application, which is like a trading application. And now you have integrated the two. And based on the logic which you have, it's able to emit data into the database. We're still there till now, most of us. 70% of software engineers are still running on Web 2.0. And then a group of anonymous people from different parts of the world, which go by the name, a pseudonym, Satoshi Nakamoto, came up with a white paper. I think they're professors, though. If not, then they're really crazy people, because they came up with a way where we could actually change how we view money. That's the paper. That's what the paper is all about. It's just a paper. It's like the way you can sit on a Sunday evening, taking coffee, and just come up with a concept. And you tell your friend, and then the friend tells the friend, and then tell another friend, and you're like, okay, we can sit down and work on something. And we work on a formula. And that formula changes the way we see the financial industry. So that's now the Bitcoin white paper. And it was built on an interesting concept, where now, instead of just reading data from the database and writing to the DB, you could also execute. So execution means that you could move granular into the network itself and see how now the data can be manipulated and finally written to a final ledger. So it's actually provided transparency on the execution bit for Web 3.0. Now, to understand Web 3.0, you have to change your mentality from just reading and writing to the database to viewing how data flows to a final ledger. And it's important because now it's built on something called a governance mechanism or consensus mechanism, which now you have various people or people you trust or people who are elected by people all over the world to govern a specific flow of data. That's all it is. It's not anything unique. It's not hard. It's just that you just now have transparency of how data flows. And it changes the way we code. It changes the way we see the world. It changes the way we interact with people all over the world. And it changes the way how we see value in things. In things, it means how you see value in currencies, how you see value in cultures, different people, how you see value into the relationships you create, whether it's friends, family, let's say professional relationships. It changes how we view the economy as a whole. Now that's Web 3.0.
Any other question, Natasha?
None for now.
Okay. So just to take you back a bit, when Natasha was talking about Adanian Labs, we pride ourselves in a couple of partnerships. We are an Activate partner with AWS. What does that mean? It means that if you are a startup and incubated at Adanian Labs, we can easily, accelerate you in terms of maybe having compute power, some servers to build on, some tools to, do your R&D and things like that, free of charge, right? I'm sure you're smiling because, when you hear free of charge, you're laughing. Yeah. Technology can be very expensive, more so around, compute power, storage, and things like that. And more so complex cloud architectures at times become costly if more so you don't know how to fully optimize your setup. But the beauty about Adanian Labs is that, one, we are an Activate partner, and we will, you join us, we give you credit to set you up or to start you off in ensuring that you have the bare minimum to pilot your product, to build your product, to beta test it, and even research. Besides that, we also train you on some of the tools which AWS offers out there. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. And we also Microsoft partner around risk and compliance. And also we use a lot of their tools, the Microsoft Azure for DevOps on some of our startups, which are under the Adanian Labs. Then this brings us the cloud infrastructure. What is it? And why do we need it? Okay. Because again, I said a few minutes ago that there is the business and there's the technology side. And I believe we all build because of that one customer we're trying to target. Yeah. I'm sure everyone here has an idea, like you're about to sleep, but you have an idea, you're thinking about it right now. Yes. And what do you need in terms of supporting the business? Leave alone the product. You've built the tech, but what is this bit which supports your day-to-day running of the business? All right. There are tools like CRMs. There are tools like, accounting. There are tools like, maybe HRM tools and the like. So at Adanian Labs, what we do is that the moment you get to be incubated, we ensure that you're set up to be a real business. Do you know what a real business is? Do you know?
Like an officially registered business, or or do you mean like an up and running business which is out in the market?
A real business is a real business. So, well, look at it this way. You have transactions, maybe you have customers, maybe you have staff, right? You have bills. So what happens is that Adanian Labs ensures that those things are, captured correctly by giving you solutions which we call it an ERP, which is in-house, so that you are able to smartly manage your business. Okay? Think about it this way. In the next 6 months, you've finished building your product, but you've had expenses, you've had transactions, you've had operations running, right? And you will start fundraising. You'll be, going out to investors. You'll be going out to, VCs and things like that. And most of the time, they want you to show what you've been doing. And if you don't have such records, what happens? Yeah? You'll be like, oh, we just finished building, eh? So how worth or how much are you worth? You'll be like, okay, this has been my operations, and you have the records. But if you don't have that, you start at a slate where it's clean, and the investor will be like, no, you don't have any worth at this point. Yes? So it's always important to have tools which help you in running your business, so that even by the time you're done with the incubation, what happens? You can easily even see your value. You can easily even think about your value in the next 10 years, because you already understand the basics of running the business in a smart way. Yeah? Think about CRM. If you are engaging customers, like, you have a business which is about engaging the customers, how do you use the CRM to the advantage of the business? Where you get to study and use a bit of artificial intelligence also to understand the patterns, to understand the behavior of the customers, so that even by the time you're saying, I've been invested on, I know my next step of action in how I'm scaling my business, right? So in cloud computing, there's a lot we can talk about that, because one, when we incubate you, most probably, or 100% chances is that you'll be on cloud. First of all, because of costs. Two, we have the advantage of being, Microsoft partner, AWS partner, and we give you the free credits to start you off. Yes, isn't that amazing? Yeah, clap. And then, of course, based on the architecture, again, we make sure that by the time you're leaving Adanian Labs, you can easily go on your own, and it helps us now to architecture a solution in a way that you can migrate to any other thing you want based on now your success. Yeah? Any question about that?
Okay, so I want to know what you people as Adanian Labs have found to be the unique selling point. Like, what is it that with regards to this market that people who don't exist in this market don't know, which makes your products the right products for this market? Do you understand my question?
Very, very much. Yeah, so it's the Tanzanian market, yes? Or it's the East African market, I don't know.
I think Tanzania, so I can imagine Nairobi tech scene is very different from this one.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that you people know that maybe someone coming from Nairobi doesn't know about this market that makes your products unique and successful because you know that thing?
So the Adanian Labs, right?
Yeah.
Borderless Africa. Think about it that way. First of all, I think John Kamara mentioned it again on Monday. And the thing is, if we, like, for instance, we've set up in Tanzania, what happens is that we get the people within that space or within that market or within that region or within that country who understand that market. The startups are within that market. They come out of the problems within that market or within that ecosystem, like, TZ now. And you'll be the one to say, okay, fine, this is, I think we need to solve problems in TZ this way. We're not Tanzanians, for instance, and we don't understand, or rather, we don't know much about the TZ, but we're bringing you the infrastructure, all right? We're bringing you the tech know-how. We're bringing you the potential of investment. We're bringing you, of course, experience around the longest experience you can imagine around technology, around networking, around product development, around PR and marketing. Yes. And we have a wide range of networks in terms of the partnerships we've formulated around the world with various tech companies. Like AICE has the AI Commons, like the NVIDIA, the partnership with NVIDIA, NVIDIA, where now we have a blank check of, $1 million to appropriate in terms of compute power, GPU resources, blockchain, HPCs, and things like that. So we come with that. I'm sure you don't have it here, but we're coming with it. Yes? So that's the value proposition we're saying as Adanian Lab. When we come to Tanzania at this point, can you come work with us? Can you come innovate with us? Yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was basing it on the four of us. Fema Agri, the startup, which is listed as part of our startups, is a Tanzanian startup being led by Daniela Kwayu. Ecoba started in TZ. Vicoba. So basically, I know TZ, right? And it started based on the Vicobas, and it started here in Tanzania. And our co-founder, Irene Kiwia, is a Tanzanian. Yeah. So I believe we know a lot about TZ. But not us, but the partners we have, the co-founders, some of the startups are, originally from TZ.
So my question, and I think so quite a few people would be pretty interested in this, but since Adania Labs is coming to Tanzania, you can't support just anybody that walks in. So what exactly are you looking for from the Tanzanian market? What do you expect from us so that we can meet you guys and get the seed funding or the resources or the contacts, the partnerships, etc.?
First of all, do you want to tell them about the camel theory? Yeah, just briefly.
Okay. So the camel theory is a theory that was developed by Adanian Labs about a year ago. And the main point of the theory is a lot of companies aim to develop or to build unicorns, right? A unicorn is a one in a lifetime type of company, a Google kind of company. But in Adanian Labs, our main goal is to build camels. And if we think about how a camel is, they are very resilient and they survive in any kind of environment. So that's one of our main goals. It's to build companies that can survive, that can thrive throughout different environments. So they may not be Google, but they will still generate revenue. They will still grow. They will still create impact. They will still build revenue.
Sort of like IBM's.
IBM,
IBM has been lasting for quite a while.
Yes, exactly. So maybe just to tie that into what you've asked, with that in mind, when we come to somewhere like Tanzania, the main goal is to identify young individuals, mostly young, it could be anyone, I'm biased, identify individuals that have great ideas that can be scaled, that can be built on, and they're open to embracing technology into those ideas. Obviously, the idea has to make sense. It has to be financially viable, but also it's an idea that can stand the test of time and environment and things like that.
And most importantly, impact driven, right? All right? We don't want to build products or startups which, will keep you out of touch with the community, will keep you out of touch with your consumers, right? There are people who build products which, to create a class or like a stature or something like that, where, once you've made it, you start alienating yourself. We want to build products which brings us together every day, in solving problems which we face within our African borders. Okay? Socially impact driven. I think that's the word. And viable, of course, and what other thing is that we give you 1 year of incubation.
Okay.
1 year. Who gives you that? The Y Combinator doesn't. These, I'm sure even Sahara Ventures, they don't. Yeah. 6 months. So for us, it's 1 year. You can imagine. And we give you angel investment, to kickstart you.
Another question I had, if suppose I do come with Adanian Labs, right, with my startup, do you guys just take a technical role, or do you guys also come in as business partners? Do you guys come in to assist with contacts, or just helping us build frameworks and helping us scale our service?
So, you want to take that? Okay.
Okay, so just to add first something before I answer the question. Something else we're very keen on here is partnership. I mean, there is nothing that we'd be able to do on our own. And the idea that we don't necessarily consider other people as competitors, we consider them as partners. So we try to find areas of collaboration with as many partners as possible, because that way we can drive the same goal a bit quicker. Now, in regards to you coming in as a startup, it's twofold. We would provide technology and we would still provide the business support. So like when we first began, we showed you our incubation model. And what that includes is a shared service unit. So what that means is any corporate services you'd need, from administration to legal to HR to marketing to PR to go-to-market strategies, anything you need in terms of business, the lab fully provides that. And anything you need in terms of building technology, the lab provides that. So it's a whole 360 sort of incubation where you come in. It provides your initial funding. It builds it helps you build your team, helps you build the technology, gives every business support service that you would need, then prepares you to go to market, introduce you, links you to the right growth opportunities, and then, yeah. So basically, it's a 360 model.
So everything will be provided by Adanian Labs?
Yes.
You come as you are, but with a very viable idea.
Right.
Yeah.
So just, you asked what else we do. So aside from incubation, like we earlier mentioned, one of the key things that we're aiming to do is capacity building. And the main goal for capacity building is because we understand the impact that has across time. I mean, it's not a one-off impact. And one of the things we hope to drive through our capacity building is research and development, which would allow us to now have the right skills, train those skills into thinking a little bit more outside the box and coming up with now the unicorns. Yeah.
And you asked, you said IBMs, something?
IBM.
Well, we could say tiny IBMs, but when you combine, it becomes a big IBM. Any other question? Oh. The catch. Maybe you finish your question. There's another sentence missing.
The nice way of putting it, in reference to businesses, we understand this is a lot of support and it's going to help a lot of businesses, startups and entrepreneurs accelerate. What's the value exchange? What are you hoping to attain from the business? Is it purely equity? Are we looking at partnerships in the long term, that kind of thing?
So at Adanian Labs, it's straight up. You are incubated, and our, always proposition is that, 10 to 20%, depending on your idea. Like, once we evaluate the whole project, and again, the level you are at, like, maybe you've already built something, you've already put together a team, you've already made it easier for yourself to, even within 3 months, you're done building your product when you join us. it's 10 to 20%. And it's always, of course, a negotiation where we say, okay, fine, why we want 20 or why you want to give us 10. So that's the range, 10 to 20%. Yeah, if we're incubating already existing product, like you've already launched, but you just need like a 3-month, 6-month, incubation period where we either repurposing your technology, either we, giving you the shared service unit to accelerate you in the market, where we, you want to do pivoting because maybe the idea you had in the market was not really doing well and you want to pivot. Yeah, we can easily go below that because you already put in an effort, you've already spent money. And we can get into even a cost sharing model where we say, okay, fine. You push this side, let's push this side so that, we achieve what you want. Mostly the product or rather a solution or a startup which is already in the market, we can always go below 10. Any other question, please? Sir, ask something. Even if it is technical, like, the whatever, yeah, Raymond is here to answer. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I was a bit interested on the blockchain part. You said among the advantages, decentralization of data, may I say. I was just imagining. I have a little bit of experience to this software model, like the database and stuff, where there is a central place for storage of everything and all the data. But in this, you said there is decentralization. How is it a good thing? Because it's like there is a copy of the data at every like nodes or something. That's like a lot of resources you're using. How is that a good thing in the blockchain?
I have an addition. I'm coming from healthcare industry, and so far the industry has been more conservative. Like it likes to run things in a conservative way. But I think there are so many good things in other industries, of which if we try to adapt them, this could be a more thriving industry. And having heard of blockchain and how it operates, I think it's a good thing. Now, with things like stock management system, I think of patient management system. I don't know if they correlate in any way, but how is this going to help, for example, with the rise of things like telemedicine, which is a concept that is now being widely discussed in Tanzania. So how is this system going to help the sharing of patient data in various hospital or various facilities without, damaging the conservative nature of this industry? Things like confidentiality. Like if you look at it, for now, it's very hard for hospitals to share data, but it could have been very easy for patients to like migrate from one hospital to another with this data being available among those hospitals. And I don't think if they have this idea of blockchain, that's why maybe they are skeptical about the issue of sharing data and everything. So how does this bring change or how is this revolutionary in areas like this one?
So Raymond will answer that question because he was also the lead system architect of Afya Record. So he'll explain. I'll explain on the decentralization bit. I know this looks like dots and lines, but it's an illustration. So this point, this is decentralization. This is a central repository. Now, why decentralization? So think of blockchain network as a mesh network, but it's a mesh network that at every single point, it has something called a node or a cluster. How a node cluster goes by various names, but a node essentially is like a microcomputer. So it stores most data. So for example, you've deployed your data at this particular point. Now, if you've deployed your data at this point, now there's the network programming bit in blockchain. That's why it's full stack. You'll code cryptography, networks, smart contracts. So the network programming bit is this point over here. So each node, which is like a database in the blockchain network, is connected by a specific network. You can call it peer-to-peer network. It can be a mesh topology, depends, but it's connected by a network. Now, the problem with the central repository is you have all data sitting at one point. And the reason why I'm putting this is not a network. This is a migration panel or migration pipeline. If let's say you want to migrate your data from this point to a different database, you just migrate manually. Or maybe you've written a bash script or something that can execute and move data from this database to a different database sitting in a different country. Depends how fast it is per transaction speed. Now, when we come to this point, all these are nodes. So basically, this means that they're all interconnected. But each of them, because this one has its own specific micronodes, but this is the head node. So you have like a peer node and you have child nodes. Now this is all the database bit. So it means if the peer node at this point, let's say this is P1, this is like a peer node, and you have child nodes. This is like N1, N2, N3. So these are child nodes. So the peer node, every time, it depends on the clock cycle and how you code it. It always does analysis on the child nodes. Remember, this is N to base N. So it means infinite nodes. You're the one to say how many nodes you'd want. But this basically means that this pay is always doing analysis on these nodes. So if it checks or gets a trigger that N2 is having a problem with data. So let's say it's being hacked, it's being tampered with, or somebody is trying to extract data in an unauthorized fashion. So what it does, it communicates to the peer node. Now, based on the business rules or logic, which I've coded at this point, it can decide whether to destroy this node or to purge. But remember, if it purges this node, it had some data. But this data is replicated again to specific nodes. And remember, all this is a mesh network in different parts of the world. So if this one is purged, this node over here, let's say it's N2 base 3, so 3 meaning peer node 3 on a different country, it will take the place of this node because it has the same data. It has a mirror data. Now remember, if it takes the place of this node auto-generates again, because remember it's to the power of N. So it means the peer can play with specific node placements and can place again N2. And when this N2 has taken the position of this node, so this basically means that the data again, it starts a replication process of replicating this data again to this node sitting in a different country. Now, what does this mean for your business? Basically, it means that This data will never be tampered with at any other point, whether it's by people who have access or it's by people who don't have access. Because if you have access, again, let's say a specific team of people will have to authorize you to either extract or manipulate that data. If you have access still, there are people who have to authorize. So anyway, you can't just tamper with that data. Compared to a central repository where I can just come and say, hi, how are you? It seems I kind of lost your contact. So I don't know if you have an email address I can contact you. So I'm just sitting at the front office talking to someone. So I'm just doing social engineering. Do you know if you get an email, somebody's email address, you can get every type of information they have online? Now that's hacking, basically. There's specific tools which if you use an email address, for example, Datasploit, I can get everything about you online. Everything. Like if you've gone to a wedding, I'll know. If basically you have a paper or anything online, you can get it from someone. So how long do you think it will take for me to know the password for your database and to be able to exploit that data? Even if you're using SQL, Mongo, I can still know. But for this, even if you know, there are specific people who are governing this network. So it means you'd have to gain access to them or convince every one of them to give you authorization, which is hard. Because if they do, then it means maybe you're somebody high in power, or even if you do, they still an audit trail. So you won't escape nonetheless. But the beautiful thing about this is it's beautifully created because it has a self-healing mechanism, so your data will never get lost. It's also replicating data on different parts of the world, and each node is interconnected with the other. So this node over here knows what's happening here. This over here knows what's happening here. So there's that transparency of data. The other thing is the data structure. So the data structure which you have put on this particular node, and this node is governing this node, it can always calculate the transaction speed. So it means if you want to verify data from this point, x1, and the data is at x, let's say 7, the transaction speed is so fast that you don't even need like a high performance computer. Do you know how many times you might want records on a central repository? So you just hit select and then you look for coffee because it's trying, the daemon is running, trying to get all the records at a specific point. At this point, you want what? 1 million records, fine. Press select, transaction speed from this point, based on the protocol you've used, whether it's parachains, sidechains, the data structure, architecture, so on and so forth. And the beautiful thing about this is the immutability bit of things. So even if somebody changes, if you write on the network, it will always remain. Whether it's an error you did 67 years ago, if you go the block explorer at block hash this, it's still there. So you can't just say that something happened without me knowing. Oh, I'll even know because I can do an audit trail on the data and I can see that you tried extracting specific amount of records. So that's the beauty about decentralization compared to a central repository of data. Maybe Raymond has a question to answer.
So thank you. The first product here is called Afya Record. Afya Record is a consumer-driven, health-driven platform built on AI and blockchain technology. Afya Record, unlike the normal hospital legacy systems, is a system which allows for patients to hold the health records by themselves. Meaning, what happens? I'm a chronic patient, for instance, cancer or diabetes, all that. So there's maybe normal medication I do take in my home, or the home nursing they do, or hospital A, they have these records for me. So the app, you own your own data. You as a person, I input my medical records. If I go to a hospital, I can share same records the doctor if that hospital doesn't have Afya Record, because Afya Record comes with a full HMIS system for the hospitals you can easily adopt. For those people who have their own legacy systems, can be integrated to that. But as well, for hospitals who doesn't want or are not integrated to a record, what they do is once I've done the treatment is done as a patient, I can scan the records or my medications or my referral letter or my discharge note and store it in the app. And I can allow a doctor to access my medical records from anywhere by just having their phone number. And for them, they will install a record in their phone and they can easily access my medical records for a period of time or for maybe a lifetime if I allow always. Because the configuration you set when you allow someone to have access to your medical data. What happens to maybe our old parents or my young kids? So what happens is I can create an account for them and manage it from my app as Raymond. So meaning I love records for my kids and I love records for my older parents. For my kids, when they come of age, the account is ready because we tie them to a specific user ID called air code, which once this kid is 18 or has access to mobile phone, they can easily access that info and they'll see from their birth to where they are at 18 all the medical records. Because of one anytime we go to hospital, I get my medical records from the doctor, from the discharge note, from the medication. If I have an headache, I go to a nearby chemist. I'll still scan the medication I've been given. And in case maybe anything happens, I'll just share this info with the doctor and they'll know what to treat me for. So from the question you said, most hospitals are conservative, maybe. They don't want to change to the technology. Some will still stick to a book, pen and paper for all that, for all their records. Some will, they invested in a very huge system somewhere. Others are still skeptical. Or for Dar es Salaam Hospital A, if we allow this patient to access our data and they go to Dar es Salaam Hospital B, meaning that hospital will see our records. So what we've done with Afya record is if we allow the patient to own that data, meaning I own my health records, Hospital B will have access to only my health records from Hospital A. Because we've allowed, there's the share feature, and it's for the security purpose, we've done what Jeff was trying to explain around the blockchain. And then for the AI, maybe we've built health bots, mostly using health service from Azure as well as the one from AWS. What that does is, if, for instance, I've been on medication for around 1 week, then from the symptoms I'm recording, it's worsening off. So it will either prompt me early enough that your symptoms are worsening instead of improving. So check a doctor. Or if I'm linked to a doctor in my app, what we'll do is ping the doctor that check Rain's diary. Yeah, sorry. I'm not selling a product. I was just trying to explain the health system, which AI and blockchain. Thank you.
But just to add on, there is a bit of compliance risk and security, which we'll cover in the next session.
Yeah.
And that the healthcare bit, falls, squarely on the what do you call compliance, data privacy, and things like that. Yeah.
Right. So for sure, patient management is possible in and outside the hospital using smart technologies and just technologies in general. So we will take a break, 5 minutes, and then we'll get back. You can ask questions, but we'd like to cover AI, risk and compliance, and then get to your questions, right? Okay, see you in 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Noisemakers, here come and stand in front. Wow.
We do this for compliance. We talk about the country in which we're present.
Yeah.
No, you talk about Cardano, and then we'll go to Magic because Jeff will take forever. Then you ask questions. Okay, great. I'm glad guys have had this refreshment. So that means we'll be more interactive because I'd like it to be interactive. I'm just gonna wait for the guys who are talking to finish. Oh, they're actually continuing to talk. Mohammed, at least I know your name. All right. So I just want us to have a conversation about artificial intelligence. We won't go too technical. We have 5 minutes. So in movies, we always see robots trying to take over the world. I mean, humanity, and they're really brilliant, and they can, create and recreate and all those things. So I just want to throw a question to you. What do we think we can do with AI today? Where do we think we are in terms of AI? Anyone? What would the world entail? Okay, okay. Anyone else? Even Ray, Jeff, Bendon, you can also respond. Uh-huh. Okay. Right. Okay. So I'm gonna pose another question. Like we see in movies, today can AI what's the word I'm looking for? Understand its state. Does it have understanding? Okay. Okay. Is it self-aware? No. Okay. So the AI brain has been compared to the brain of a worm. I know it sounds underwhelming, but let me try and explain. So today AI can do what we want it to do, what we have trained it to do, what we have taught it to do. And it does this almost without understanding, without awareness of what it's doing. So for example, when I say AI can only do what we train it to do, that means that that can either be a good thing or a bad thing, because then we can build into it dangers of bias. So for example, trying to remember the company, but they were trying to build, I think it's Amazon, I'm not so sure. And they're trying to build a recruitment model. Okay, and so they built an algorithm and they trained it using CVs that were mostly predominantly male. And as they were exposing it to this information, the algorithm picked on discrimination against women. So at this point, it's not doing it because it understands why it's discriminating. It's just doing it because that's what it's been exposed to. And the basis of all artificial intelligence, as you said in the morning, is data. Now, when we feed AI with data, we begin to inform how it responds to that data, which will bring me into my next segment of the types of artificial intelligence that are there, whether in terms of what we aim to do or what we are doing now. Anyone who would know the types of AI that we have? Anyone can try. There's no wrong answer. Yes? Okay. Do you want to say what those are?
I'd rather not explain.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Would you want to explain those?
Sure. So for artificial narrow intelligence, it's ones that are very good at specific tasks, which is the most common type right now. General intelligence at the level of a general capability of a human being, and super intelligence once they surpass us, hopefully not too far away.
Right. Your hand was up? Oh, then. Okay. Yes. So. Okay. So AI is a field that's still being explored, and there's so many ways we use to describe the different types of AI that we have. I personally will use the 4 that I feel were the most accurate. So the first one you have is reactive AI. Okay, so it basically give it an input, generates a specific output. Okay, so it's more towards simple classification, pattern recognition, things like that. It's limited, and it definitely cannot prepare for the unexpected. It can only do what it knows to do, what it expects to do. Then second type is limited memory machines, which would be things like deep learning. This one is better at absorbing characteristics of the training data, but it still does not necessarily have understanding. And those two would fall under narrow AI, as Issa said. So then there's theory of the mind, which this type of AI, this is where emotion AI would fall under. It can sort of simulate, monitor, respond to human-like emotion by analyzing what a human being would do. This we haven't gotten here yet because this type of AI has a form of understanding. And the fourth one, which scientists have believed we would have gotten there by now, is self-aware AI. And this AI is able to understand its own state as well as recreate better AI on its own. So why I felt the need to talk about this is I'd like us to be aware that there is still so much to be done. We have done a lot in terms of artificial intelligence, but there is still so much to be done. And the more people doing it, the more we're able to come up with really great solutions within artificial intelligence. And just a challenge, right now, all the big names in artificial intelligence, all the guys who came up with the big things like Boolean logic, things that we use today, no, not that I'm racist, but they're all white. Okay, so it'll be great if even here, I mean, as Africans, we can come up with interesting logic and algorithms. And the whole basis of artificial intelligence is to mimic and hopefully surpass human intelligence. And what that means is currently the greatest intelligence that is here today is still human intelligence. And that means we still have room to explore and to build and to come up with really solid artificial intelligence tools. So I just wanted us to have a view of what we are doing in AI, what can be done, what has been done, and where the world hopes to go. And just, I mean, there's never enough learning to be done. So yeah, that's all we're going to do today. So I don't know if Bendon, Raymond, or Jeff would have anything to add.
So I'll be less technical. So I'll speak in regards to blockchain technology. We all know it's a new form of technology, but if the reason why I'm really insisting for, it's an assignment to all you guys. If you have time, maybe you can go through the first white paper, which was written for blockchain technology. But the main concept we people don't understand, because people are mostly focused on the technology, is blockchain tries to bring all other components of technology together. It's not going against, it's not going alone. It's trying to build everything, bring all components of technology together. What this means is that if AI is driven by data, and IoT meets data, and blockchain specifically manipulates the data. So the reason why, even on that architecture, we have AI and we have IoT, it's not whether it's necessary or not. It's just that with blockchain technology manipulating the data, you can easily create smart solutions using AI and IoT on top of blockchain technology. That's the whole thought process. And it's quite an interesting architecture, because, for instance, if you build a chatbot on top of blockchain, every type of, let's say, how you've structured the data on the blockchain can actually respond to people when they text, and the AI model sitting on top of the blockchain layer can do analysis on the persons, whether it's semantic analysis, whether it's deep learning, natural language processing, it doesn't matter. But if it's a Merkle tree, for example, which is the model built on top of the layer, can map what somebody is saying to what somebody is feeling to a data point on the blockchain layer. So if you think about it, you are uniting every component of technology, you're creating smart solutions, and it means now you have a very, very, very selected community in regards to these technologies. So you're bringing a community of embedded computing or Internet of Things. You're bringing a community together of artificial intelligence, whether it's deep learning, machine learning, data science, so on and so forth. You're bringing again a community of node deployers, network programmers, smart contract developers, and all that into one community, hence creating a borderless Africa.
Right, and that's what the fourth industrial revolution would look like. Okay, so Raymond will take us through risk, compliance, security, and then Brendan, and then we'll welcome questions and close.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Natasha. So risk, compliance, and security. We have three things there. There's the risks, and there's the compliance, and the security. In terms of building a system, we could be building a system around discussion we had around healthcare. Compliance for you to handle people's health data is huge. You might go through a lot of legislation and all that process for you to be allowed to handle their data. And then the risk in handling this data, what happens? Which calls in security measures in the system. So that's why we say risk, compliance, and security. So normally, once you're building such systems, sensitive systems, you'll start with identity management. Identity management basically is who handles what and where. Like entering this building, from the ground floor, the lift, to this door at 4th floor, then to where you are seated and the what you're accessing here. So that's basically identity management. We know who entered where, at what time, doing what. Code handling. What code handling comes in, maybe for instance, we're building a sophisticated solution here. And we are 10 developers in different countries. Or what happens if you have access to the entire your live code? You see, there's a challenge because you might duplicate what you have. So what can we do to handle that? It's around the permissions. You can't have full code at the same time. The VPNs is around the security, how we communicate in the different servers we have and different infrastructures we have, the different microservices and services we have. There's API security. Basically, for third-party APIs, what to expose or what we are being exposed to by our third parties, including payments and other vendors. Pen test is what to enhance security before you deploy a system out there, which could be hacked in the next 2 hours. Why don't you invest in penetration tests even for a whole year, or pay hackers to hack your system? If they can't, they pay you back. So that's around pen test. I don't, Ben, is there anything I've left in risk?
So again, like in a startup environment, a startup ecosystem, what does this, bring about? Don't forget that, before you get valued and say we are raising $1 million for you, the asset you have at that point is your technology product. If you've built a technology product. Yes? And that would be your value, basically. The code which has gone in there, the architecture which has gone in there, the data you've collected over time is your value. So basically, mitigating the risks around your product is very important. And if we drill down to the healthcare discussion we had, imagine building a wrong algorithm which advises you to take what do you call, maybe morphine instead of maybe dewormers. That's a risk, right? And you'll be arrested because maybe you've advised someone wrongly. So again, while we're building our technologies, we need to put into considerations, again, the customer at the other end. How accurate is the outcome? How accurate is the output when I'm using this technology? Yes? In compliance, you know that there's data privacy issue around the world now. And it doesn't just stop there. In Kenya, we have a whole data commissioner, which is a big office. And the level of compliance you need to be at to even deploy a simple visitor attendance book, or maybe you are in an event and you're taking people's biometric, might take a year for you to get an approval if you're building such a solution. Because why are you building this? Yes, you have the reason, but why are you picking people's fingerprints? Why are you picking people's facial structures and contours? Understand? So, but again, there are ways at which you put out there your argument, and if you are compliant, then they give you a go ahead. Yes, but as we say, you build it, then we'll find a way of dealing with the regulations and things like that. Yeah, but a country like Kenya, since the regulation is already there, then you have to abide by the regulation. I don't know about TZ, if there is any data privacy laws. I think it's there. Yeah, I remember there's something around that. And of course, security. As a whole, your startup, needs to consider a lot of security touch points. How you integrate with that, the data points which you have within your product. Security in the sense that even if the data get leaked out, maybe it's anonymized, you can't know whose data is this, right? So you make sure that your startup also score highly in terms of security. Yes? It could be security in accessing, maybe implementing two-factor authentications, maybe OTPs and things like that. Okay? So this is very important in an overall valuation of your idea once you are now at that stage where you're doing your fundraising. Okay? There are a lot other areas which you can discuss around risk, compliance, and security. This was just to highlight some. There is also standardizations. If you're building some products around let's say the ISO certification and things like that. So again, there are other compliance layers at which your startup needs to get into so that you are compliant. So I think that's it around that. Natasha, maybe Q&A or what? Yeah. While you're thinking about questions, maybe just to wrap up, Adanian Labs now is in 5 countries. I believe hopefully in the next 1 year, we'll be in around 10 countries, Natasha. Yeah. And we're looking to build 300 startups by 2024, 5 thereabout. And by end of this year we should be at 30 startups. Yes, that's huge, right? No, I think we have a success rate of almost 30% of, if we do the, how many startups we've built, how many have gone into the market, how many have been funded. You understand? So we are here. I mean, either way we'll do it. There's no option about that, So we're calling on you to join this big movement, the Borderless Africa. And of course, I'm sure one of you will be, smiling in the next 1 year or two. And of course, to highlight, we have very strategic partnerships with Emugo, the Cardano. Who knows Cardano? You're a smart guy. Huh? He's a smart guy, eh? Cardano, you can imagine, he is our partner. And we're working together. And of course, looking forward to expanding Africa in a bigger way. And NVIDIA is also our strategic partner. And I believe with NVIDIA, possibilities are endless. And they are saying, where are the startups to use these resources? You can imagine. So let's think, let's sit down, let's brainstorm, amongst yourselves, come up with solutions, let's be the ones solving our problems. And again, not every problem requires digitization. Let's agree, yeah? Because if the solution you're bringing, the customer segment is around 60 to 80 years old, then, it don't work, You'll have to maybe print placards that will be your technology. So let's think, let's critically think, let's always try and involve, our communities around, the solutions or the ideas we have, yes? Because we want to build, first of all, easy to scale, easy to fund, viability in itself is high. And of course, it can be used across Africa. Yes? Make sense? Great.
So I don't know if there's questions or there's anyone with questions. Okay. I'm going to invite everybody here to give like 2 lines of like a parting shot. Like your main, what you'd like to be your main takeaway. So start with Ray.
Well, my main takeaway or my parting shot to the team here. No, I like the team. I like the energy in the room. Passionate young people doing great stuff, amazing stuff. Join the movement. We build smart solution for borderless Africa, and we see great things in Web 3.0, IoT, AI, and blockchain. And then we run the world. Thank you.
I would urge you to be critical thinkers and use a lot of pen and paper. Write it down, cross it, start again until it makes sense. Yeah?
Kind of feel like I'm about to be a motivational speaker. But I'm just going to repeat what I said earlier, that the greatest intelligence that currently is there is human intelligence. And until we learn to not meet machines halfway, we may not be able to build the things that we can build. And I'm just going to disagree with Bendon. Widespread automation is inevitable and unavoidable. So a 60-year-old today, maybe not, but when we are 60, we will still use technology. So yeah, and as younger people, let's build transferable skills that we can use across different ways. have a debate.
Parting shot. No, parting shot is an interesting word because I can say so many things. But, well, mine is quite simple. Everyone seated over here, if you're not disturbed, if you're not internally disturbed in terms of the amounts of solution built by Tanzanians, the amount of products built by Tanzanians shipped offshore to external markets, if you're not disturbed in terms of the innovation and the knowledge and how smart you guys are, and you're not building, then I don't know what to tell you. Why join us? Why join Adanian Labs? Why join the borderless movement? Why join what we're doing? We're trying to make a change. We're trying to encourage people who have lost hope. And we're trying to enable people see that whatever jargons people use to make things hard, it's not really hard. It's not. You just have to put in the work. Endless work. Thank you.
Oh, while we want to recognize the presence of Daniela, and as earlier mentioned, yay, she's the founder of FEMA Agri. Yeah, hi Daniela.
My name is Eric Timoth, a computer scientist. I would like to ask an interoperability between AI and blockchain.
So I'll ask you a question. You know, ask Kenyans. You answer questions with questions. So how do you understand interoperability? On a layman's perspective. I'll answer. I just want you to explain how do you understand interoperability?
How they can work together.
How they can work together, isn't it? So I'll give you a use case. I like stories.
I know.
So we're working on, we're actually doing a research project on merging AI with blockchain in regards to crypto trading. Interesting, right? So the question is, how can you create a mesh network of small AI bots that can monitor the crypto market per, how the candles normally get laid out, and can store that information on the blockchain, where we can actually decentralize that data into 7 different countries, because the bots will run, the crypto market is universal. So if you decentralize it in 5 different countries and the bots are running in 5 different countries, then we're getting real-time data analysis from 5 different countries being stored on the blockchain. Now, interoperability is relative. The reason is because with artificial intelligence, if let's say you're using Django and you've built your models using Python, you'll expose the REST APIs, which again, if they're consumed by, let's say, the compute layer on the blockchain network, you'd have, again, to rewrite your cryptography on the blockchain bit so that you're able to consume the APIs. So in terms of interoperability, it depends on the solution which you have, because I won't lie to you, there are solutions when you interconnect AI blockchain, it's a nightmare because of the nature of the REST APIs and how you're structured your network, and also how you're structured your deployment modes on the network. But based on the research we have done, and us working with AIC on a couple of projects, I'd say it's seamless integration, but the secret sauce to every solution is the architecture. So you'd rather not even code anything. But the architecture, if it's laid out properly, even if you get Tanzanian developers from high school who you have trained and you're teaching them a language so that they can build a solution, they'll work on it properly because the architecture is the Bible. If the Bible is wrong, then your followers get messed up along the way. No, for real. But just to answer you, it's quite seamless. It just depends on how you set up your APIs on the AI side, blockchain side, and also how you lay out your data structure. Because, for example, mostly blockchain is laid out on the data side, and now the data side is being used by the models, the AI models, to derive value from the data. Whether it's big data, whether it's normal data, it doesn't matter, structured and structured, the concept is always the same.
I have one more question. Can anyone start a blockchain?
Yes. Yes, right? Yeah.
All right, so I'm hoping there are no more questions. Is anyone looking at the YouTube live feed just to let me know if there's any question popped up there? Simon, where are you? He's disappeared. Okay. Let me just check the YouTube live stream. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for coming today. You can find all of us online, well, all of them on their Twitter, Instagram, or just if you have a question, shoot it at Adanian Labs. Don't forget to tag Sahara Sparks, #Future Reimagine. And let's see, YouTube. Nope, no questions. All right, so thank you, everyone. Please make sure you spend the time to network with each other, with the panelists while they're here for a couple more minutes. Big shout out to Adanian Labs for giving us this masterclass, a lot of their knowledge. And I'm going to shamelessly plug in some local initiatives that are going on as well. A lot of you already know the Tanzanian AI Lab. It is a local initiative. It's a community of AI practitioners. I know a lot of you from there. Others that I don't know probably know me, but there is stuff going on. If you don't know about it, you should get involved there. And of course, the Adanian Labs, as they said, they're coming to Tanzania. So make sure you take the best advantage of a lot of these opportunities. Sahara Sparks is going to be going on for the rest of the week, so make sure you engage virtually, physically, wherever you can. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I don't know if Snack is still there. I see Mints. But yeah, have a great day. Thank you.